Hello there, good evening, and welcome to the Economic Times CEO Dialogues presented by SAP. Thank you all for joining here today. It's a great discussion to have today. We have with us top leaders from the Indian power sector. We will be talking about accelerating shifts and changing strategies in power distribution. My name is Alokesh Bhattacharya. I'm senior editor of the Economic Times, and I am joined by my colleague Suchetana.
Hello everyone, I'm Suchetna Ray. I'm the Senior Assistant Editor of the Economic Times. I welcome you all to today's discussion. Thank you very much for taking the time out today. And we hope that we'll have a very strong discussion about the changing trends in the Indian power sector.
So let me just introduce the panel here to all of you. We have Dr. Saurav Garg, the chairman of Gridco and OPTCL. We have Mr. Sanjeevan Sinha, who's the managing director of South Bihar Power Distribution Company. We also have Pankaj Kumar Bansal, who's the CMD of Tamil Nadu Generation and Distribution Corporation. He'll join us a little later.
We also have with us Vineet Mishra, Director Technology Consulting EY, and Rajiv Singh, Vice President Strategy Industries, SAP Indian Subcontinent. It's great to have all of you with us today, and we really look forward to today's discussion.
Right. So let's just start off with a little bit of context. And, India, the last few years have been good for the power sector, and India is well on its way to power for all, which is great news. But for us to get uninterrupted supply of power is something that really still needs a little bit of work. Even as the power generation mix, moves steadily towards renewable fuels, the base load from thermal will continue to remain relevant. But the bigger problem lies in the last mile, really. With the companies that deliver electric power to your homes and to your factories, their finances are struggling due to various reasons like mounting dues to GenCos, cross-subsidization of power, pilferage, and other issues. And on top of that, the COVID-19 pandemic has also put an added spanner in the works.
India's peak electricity demand came down by almost half. That's what we see in reports, especially in the first quarter during the lockdown, because industrial and commercial establishments, which account for about 50% of India's demand, suffered greatly during the lockdowns. Domestic consumption, on the other hand, went up significantly. But that really doesn't help distribution companies, as we all know, because the revenue from there is much lower in comparison. And in fact, the domestic consumption actually contributes to 21% to the technical and commercial losses that DISCOMs suffer. Also, the gap between the cost of electricity that is bought and supplied for DISCOMs is still substantially, the difference is substantial in most states.
And, also faced by COVID, the central government and RBI have intervened. So there's a repayment moratorium, as you will all know, that's in place. Apart from that, the center has rolled out a 90,000 crore relief package. Lending norms have been relaxed for PFC and REC to lend to DISCOMs. And more significantly, really, we are also seeing very deep technology adoption by DISCOMs as they evolve to become more customer friendly.
Meanwhile, some policy proposals could also lift the sector. Distribution companies are adapting to open access and cross subsidies, which are set to be lowered under the new tariff policy. An amendment to the Electricity Act should be good for the DISCOMs. The rupees 2.86 lakh crore Aditya scheme, with tech adoption at its core, aims to change business models to include privatizing state-run DISCOMs and having multiple supply network and distribution franchisees.
In fact, Aditya is perhaps the most ambitious reform of this government for DISCOMs, probably since the time that Uday was brought in. And Uday was meant to untangle the financial mess in most state-run DISCOMs, although some of them are still doing pretty well. Now, to understand these strategic shifts, we will spend the next 5 minutes listening to Vineet Mishra of EY for his perspective. Over to you, Vineet.
Yeah, thank you, Alokesh. Thanks a lot. So, I'm just presenting this to my screen. Just a second.
Sure.
Can you see my screen, Alokesh?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can run the slideshow.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah. So, thanks everyone. So, good evening, everyone, that you are giving your time to understand what the nuances of the sector itself. And I really appreciate the panel, the kind of a senior panel we are having, and they will share their views in power distribution sector, how it is transforming. So, Alokesh, you have highlighted a very important point that India is almost reaching out to power to providing power to all. So if I'm recalling, almost around 10 years back, I was just listening 3 A's kind of theory in the sector itself. So it is accessibility, availability, and affordability. So I think we could reach the first A, accessibility. Now we need to ensure availability. That means 24 into 7 power, which is other vision of the government, and affordability also, which Suchetna touched the point in terms of a tariff hike itself. So with this, I'm just trying to highlight how sector is transforming in last 2 decades. So in 2002, so if I take 2002 journey of this sector itself, so first financial restructuring bailout package came in 2002, where Discom was sitting on huge cash loss, and just to make a viability of the sector, the first bailout package comes from the government. And at the same time, government could understand the importance of a privatization. And with this intent, government brought Tata Power, Reliance, Torrent in the sector itself. And we all know pretty well in the sector what is the journey with NDPL, BSES, and Torrent has done till now. So they are sitting almost 1 digit losses. So while they started the journey, almost 50% losses and 50% numbers were in the book. So we can understand what kind of a magnificent journey they have traveled. And this is only possible because of different strategy, because of technology intervention. So I will take it subsequently how the sector is also adopting. But my point is that these private players adopted these interventions well in advance, and they are getting the benefit of these. After 2002, then the government could understand the importance of technology, and they came up with the APDRP program, which is Accelerated Development Reform Program. So APDRP was, we can say, the first program from the government which could understand the technology importance, and it was touching a basic level technology intervention. So which was largely around metering, billing, and geographical information system. So government could see the benefit of these basic technology intervention, and subsequently they moved from distribution franchise. Distribution franchise span is quite bigger. I mentioned 2006 to 10, but it is 2006 to 2015, even 2015 also. So under this period, so Bhiwandi was a classic case study for every power distribution entity. They can understand, though that was a power loom, but Bhiwandi started from almost 60%, and within 2 years, the number was around 10 to 12%. And successfully, it was successfully implemented, and subsequently, Agra was another franchisee, distribution franchisee, which came, and Agra is again started from 48, 49% and setting around 12% numbers. Last number updated number, around 12%. So with this distribution franchisee intervention, government tried to continue APDRP second avatar, which was RAPDRP, Restructured Accelerated Development Program, and it was further categorized in two parts. The first part, as I told, in 2003-4, government started basic level technology intervention, but in 2008, government tried to expand this technology intervention horizon more. So they came up with 4 basic areas to create a baseline, because the challenge was baseline was not correct. So they came up with business process automation softwares. So which talks about metering, billing, collection, new connection, energy accounting, etc. GIS, Geographical Information System, which was in basic level in 2003-4, but it went for next level itself. Meter data acquisition system, which I would say is the first kind of a remote metering for all industrial customer. So that was a game changer, and subsequently this meter data acquisition converted in smart metering will take up subsequent years. So, and fourth part was infrastructure. So to enable all kind of software or to enable all kind of technological intervention, government to understand that they need to bring they need to brought up infrastructures at the subdivision level. So they spent money around it, and this scheme was for part A, and part B was largely for infrastructure modernization. So based on baseline data creation, every utility could understand where they are, what are their lost pockets, and what are lost numbers. So they can devise a strategy how they need to go for a reform cycle, and that was covered under part B, RAPDRP part B. Then in 2012, next major change happened when government requested Mr. Sunglu that they need to come out with their recommendation to revive the sector. So there were three clear-cut recommendations come from Sunglu committee. That was the first thing, that government or sector needs to focus that there should not be a higher NPAs. So the discoms were sitting on 1.5 trillion INR short-term liability at that point of time. So that was for sure need to be bailed out at that point of time. Second was suggested that 255 towns were identified by Mr. Sunglu that these needs to go for distribution franchisee. And third was every discom needs to develop their IT competency. So DF, which I mentioned 2006 and it went to 2014, there was certain successful DF, but there were certain failure DF also. So there were certain cases in Bihar and MP. A few DFs could not perform. There may be a number of reasons. Maybe they have quoted very high input levelized rate, but we have both kind of a precedence in the market. Then in 2014, next major change came from the government side, that RAPDRP was largely focusing on urban area, but this IPDS and DDYUG, which is Integrated Power Development Scheme, and Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gramin Scheme, so it was focusing on rural area as well. So IPDS was extension of RAPDRP. So this scheme again provide a good instrument to distribution companies to create an infrastructure at subdivision level or division level, which are in rural state, and those subdivision or division should also be technology enabled. So as you see, 2002 to 2014, government came with two bailout package, but again 2018 story is same. It's a huge outstanding on discoms, and this time Ministry of Power came up with this scheme of Uday. So under Uday scheme, this was a different kind of a scheme where central government clearly communicated to state government that you need to bail out this sector, and 50% short-term outstanding should be taken up by state government, and remaining 50% would be deferred payment mode. And under this Uday scheme, the government ensured that there are certain KPIs which state utility needs to meet, which were not in earlier bailout packages. And the one most important area which government tried to touch was smart metering. So smart metering intervention in actual started in 2018, though in 2014 smart grid pilot were executed in 14 different locations. And subsequent to the smart metering, now we are sitting in 2020. So there were different penetration now. Government is focusing on customer centricity also. So right of customer use bill is already under draft mode, and comments being sort of from all the stakeholders by 30th September. So that's one major change. And privatization, which was now central government is thinking, or Ministry of Power is thinking, this is unavoidable. So they are starting this journey from union territories, and subsequently they will like to take forward it to discoms as well. So what would we see throughout this 2-decade period? There were three messages were coming from various intervention which government tried to take or state utilities tried to take forward. Number one, modernization of discom through technological intervention. So you see RAPDRP, APDRP, IPDS, all the funds were invested just to create a strength to the utility, so that they should be modernized. They can leverage the technology. Second was system transparency, because up to 2008 when RAPDRP was not in place, so data was coming in a spreadsheet, there was no automated data population. So now data is coming automatically from various sources, and which is bringing the operational efficiency as well as the financial efficiency. And last point, which is a customer centricity. So now with this new bill, customer would be more demanding, and utilities, distribution utilities needs to be ready that how they are going to tackle the customer, and they need to devise their strategy. So with this, I would like to put certain pointers, which obviously all the panel will put their views around these pointers, and these are the major disruption which are happening across the sector. So first, as I told, the smart metering journey is coming forward now, and Lokesh, you have already informed that Aditya scheme is largely focusing around it, almost $2 billion USD investment which we are seeing in this. So it's a big investment in this sector. So This is pretty fluid right now, because what we are seeing, there's a one platform of Energy Efficiency Services Limited. They are taking forward. A few days back, we heard that PFC, REC, PGCL, and NTPC are coming up as a joint venture. So they are creating a central backbone infrastructure, CBIF. Plus, states are also taking forward that journey itself. So now we need to understand how this smart metering journey will be taken forward by the state. So state eminent officers or senior leadership here, they can share their views also. Second important point, prepaid smart metering, which is a game changer. So Sanjeevan sir is here, and Bihar is the first state who is going to roll out all smart meter under prepaid mode, and that will ensure the collection efficiency of the state discoms. So that again a game changer. Second point I already talked about, because of financial distress, state center has no other option that they are starting to think about the privatization, first from UT, then state discoms. Third, again, customer centricity, which we discussed, because of right of consumer bills. Utility or discom needs to devise a strategy how they are going to embrace this. And business scenarios is one of the important aspect, because now consumer is becoming prosumer with the solar rooftop intervention. So stability of distribution network is one of the important aspect. Apart from this, there are certain top line and bottom line hit to the state discom. They need to understand how they are going to hit. But on the contrary, EV is bringing more top line opportunities to discom, and discom needs to understand it's a big market where they can create a different charging station and can leverage EV program. Last but not least, technology role. We have seen under COVID impact, now work from home is a new normal, or modern workplace is a new normal. And this cutting edge technology like AI, ML. So what we are doing under smart metering, we are setting a pile of data. So we would like to utilize artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data to take the real benefit of these smart metering solutions. Last point, which I would say under technology role, that as I told, under RAP, DRP, technical solution was provided to the state discom, but these solutions are ages old now. So like billing system, CIS, and infrastructure is ages old, so it needs to be refreshed. So with this thought, I'm just handing over to Alokesh and Suchetna, so that our panelists can also share their views around it. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Vineet. Thank you very much for that presentation. And the biggest takeaway, of course, is the modernization that we're seeing in the sector, with its focus on deep adoption of technology. But the final focus is obviously going to be customers and operational and financial efficiency. With that, we begin the discussion today. We will begin today's talk with the discussion with the impact of COVID. And my first question to all the panelists, whoever wants to take it first, is how has the lockdown impacted your business? We saw reports coming in from all over. CII has estimated that till May, for the lockdown period, the total demand compression was between 33 to 36 billion units, implying that perhaps there was a net revenue loss between 25,000 to 30,000 crore for discoms. So please tell us how you're dealing with the challenge. I'll begin with Dr. Garg.
Thank you. First of all, a pleasure to be on this panel and look forward to the discussions today. Regarding the demand reduction, which I think happened everywhere, in Orissa also there was a fall of about 15% demand reduction during the first quarter, April, May, June, in terms of the consumption of electricity. But of course, after that, it's picked up and it's more or less come back to the normal levels that we have been seeing in the past. The main issue, I think, and I'll come up with I'll say a broader policy issue. I think that this COVID-induced reduction in demand has highlighted is the fact that the PPAs that exist or are as at present all have guaranteed provisions in terms of the fixed costs, etc. And I think one area where we will need to relook going forward, it's not going to be easy, is how we have done the risk allocation across the players in the system, that is between the GenCos, the transmission companies and the distribution companies. At present, the risk allocation, I would say, is entirely borne by the distribution companies, because the generating companies are entirely based on the generations, and the transcos are only have a fixed whatever transmission charges, etc. But it's not going to be easy, because but this risk allocation I think is essential to relook at, given the fact that it's an extremely capital intensive industry, whether on the generation side, whether on the transmission side or on the distribution side. So I will just flag that issue. I'm sure every distribution company is looking at different financial mechanisms to take care of the drop in the first quarter, but I'm sure we will be able to pull out of it with support of all the stakeholders.
Right. You're on mute, Alokesh.
Sorry. I'll just come to Vineet for a little bit on that. Vineet, what is your sense of the demand situation before I go to Mr. Sinha on how he's seeing the demand situation currently? What is your sense of the market? Vineet, you're on mute.
So yeah, so Alokesh, when this lockdown started, so in the month of March, we were sitting on almost 8% at pan-India level, 8% on lower side, which gradually increases, and it was on peak almost around 20%. And during this lockdown, every lockdown period, it was 24 to 30% total demand drop was there. But now last month or even in last fortnight, the reports which were published, so it was almost 0.9% higher as compared to the last year itself. But if we see the scenario from before COVID, so before COVID in February, it was almost 12% higher from the last year itself. So what the trend which we were supposing it should be, it is not at the same trend, but yes, from last year, same month, same duration, we are almost 1% higher, and even peak is 0.7% higher. So we are recovering. So we are fastly. So in IEA, International Energy Alliance report, so last report published, so where India is one of the top countries which is recovering from this setback of COVID in terms of demand.
Okay, Mr. Sinha, there has been Bihar has of course done a lot of good in the past few years. I used to live there many years ago, and the power situation is dramatically different now, from what it used to be when I used to live there. So congratulations to you for that. And just wanted to ask you, what is the demand situation now? Now that the lockdown has eased and is more or less not there anymore, and industries and factories are also coming back, is the situation improving, you think?
Thank you. In fact, regarding demand and impact of COVID, I will just take 2 minutes regarding the details of it. We should also go in the detailed structure, how it has been reshaped. In fact, in my opinion, the demand reduction is not that much in volume, but in fact, otherwise I'm telling you, demand reduction is in volume, but not that much in users, the number of users. Especially when we talk about Bihar situation, Bihar is predominantly the domestic consumers are there. So during lockdown, what the new phenomena we achieved, that work from home ultimately became for Bihar work from home state. Many persons, even from the technology field, who were earlier working in Hyderabad, Gurgaon or Bangalore, they came to Bihar, and their work from home for us, for our electricity field, it was work from home state. And we were facing the challenge of supplying uninterrupted supply to them. They may be placed in a remote place of Bihar, but since they are users and they are working, they are doing job from work from home, so we also played a role of facilitator for them. So in terms of number of consumers, it was never reduced in case of Bihar. And another aspect was the agriculture activity. Barring first 1 month in March or April maybe, after that the agriculture activity picked up. Especially this was relaxed also during this lockdown period. And Bihar is predominantly using the agriculture connections for irrigation purpose. This irrigation is not the institutional irrigation, but individualized irrigation activities being done with having 2 HP or 3 HP motors being used by farmers. So these also accelerated. And due to this and further recovery, as Vineet has identified, in a month of August, we reached the all-time peak demand was highest in the month of August for Bihar. So that part is certainly over, but we are still in terms of volume since our all the business activity and recently the industrial activity that is also not 100% started. So that part in volume part, constant use of power across all the time, in the daytime especially, we are we are substantially low. But consumer parts, the evening part or the night, the first the peak area, peak time, we are already that much reduction is not impacting us. The second part, the impact was that liquidity aspect. Even if our consumers were using electricity, but the paying habit for discoms, it was adversely affected because there was a scenario that coercive actions are not to be taken. This was the common accepted phenomena in this sector during those days. So people were waiting for some waiver, some reduction in rates, some fixed charge being waived off or like that. So liquidity crunch was there. And due to the fluctuating demand, fluctuations, especially with the daytime compared to the peak hour, we were also compelled to run our generating units at the minimum basics. So that also accounted for additional cost of fixed charges to discoms from generators. So ultimately the liquidity was the issue and that has adversely affected Bihar also.
Okay. Okay.
I'll take a question from here to Dr. Garg. So, there are some legacy issues that has always plagued discoms. For example, issues of rising dues. There is also the issue of the liquidity problem that discoms have. But do you think Aditya will be a solution for the gap that is there between the price at which electricity is bought and the price at which it is sold?
I haven't gone through the details of Aditya because they're still being panned out. But what I would definitely say is that the gap that is there between the average cost of supply and the average revenue realized, that gap, I mean, it's ultimately, number one, we have to realize that there is no free lunch. So there has to be someone paying that gap, whether if it's not the consumer paying the gap, or it's not a cross subsidy which is taking care of to some extent. There will have to be in some manner, some stakeholder of the system which would have to pay their back. And we also should realize that the regulatory commissions have to maintain that balance between the cost reflective tariff and the tariff burden on the consumer. It's not an easy task for any regulatory commission to take care. But I think where a lot of the interventions which Mr. Mishra highlighted over the past decade or so have focused on is on the loss reductions, on the areas where strengthening of substations has been done, on ensuring that power loading of substations is higher, therefore power losses are lower. So I think that's where a lot of this gap can be met to some extent, maybe 8 to 10% as they say is the technical losses, etc. So a lot of this would have to be there, but ultimately the consumer would have to pay for what the consumer is consuming. There
The
could
real
be
price of power.
there would have to be some amount of cross subsidies, maybe in some sectors.
Mhm.
But and my sense is most consumers are willing to pay. It's where we are not able to bridge the gap is either in terms of ensuring regular billing. For example, might be for some consumers a weekly bill might be required, and or as it's being now talked about, a prepaid meters might help in some. In other cases, it's a monthly bill, but the communication or where they have to pay those amounts, that is not clear. So I think a lot of the task, while it might be technical, a lot more is also on the human intervention, which we sometimes don't give so much focus on. And whether it's in terms of having different options to pay, having easier places to pay, having bills received at the right time, reminders coming on by SMS to the consumers. So I think that's an area where traditionally we have not given enough focus, and we have focused much more on the technological aspects, which are important, no doubt.
Absolutely, Dr. Garg. You were talking about human intervention, but here perhaps, Rajiv, I'll come to you with this question. What is the role that analytics can play over here when we are looking at reaching out to consumer and deciding their billing depending on their paying capacity and their need perhaps? You're on mute, Rajiv.
Yeah, Suchetna, thank you for, first of all, I think it's, thank you and very warm welcome and hello to all the panelists and the audience. Specifically, Suchetna, I believe that the whole focus, as we saw in Vineet's presentation, the next focus is going to be around customer centricity. And the next bill which is coming, which is going to tremendously focus on customer side, is going to completely define how DISCOMs will possibly come back to black from the red. And while we have a lot of focus on the MBCC solution, which is meter billing side of it, and a lot of innovation has happened. We have experienced ourselves in states like West Bengal, Himachal, Orissa, where we have done tremendous work in terms of meter billing and collection. But as far as consumer experience is concerned, that is still lacking, in our opinion, from a market perspective as such. Now, looking at your analytics, what we see today, the expectation of consumer is to have ability to have a distribution app or utility app where he is not able to only create his own profile in the app, but list his own family members, tenants, set alerts based on consumption levels. That if consumption reaches a particular level, I should be alerted. And a dashboard analytics where his consumption patterns, as Sir said, on a daily, hourly, monthly basis is visible to him. He should be able to compare his last year's Diwali time expenditure versus this year's Diwali time expenditures, and possibly able to forecast his bills, on various parameters, which is very essential for industrial consumers, right? So this is something what we are seeing in some other parts of the world, that it is absolutely possible. And while we talk a lot about this whole KPI dashboard for consumer side of analytics, I also wanted to highlight that, what does utility gain if you have something like this extended to consumer for consumer experience? Is, we have also undergone some internal research and external research, which shows that engaged consumers pay on time. Right? So whenever you are engaged, you pay on time. So collection goes up, which is the first thing that you would expect from any such engagement model. Secondly, very important is, can you have an upsell opportunity? What we are seeing globally is that some of these distribution companies have gone beyond only supplying or providing electricity, but going beyond to recommend energy efficient equipments, whether it's a fridge or a TV, and they endorse it. And there is a revenue generation stream, for some of these organizations. And through this interaction channel of consumer experience, you can push a lot of these things to your consumer who's engaged. And thirdly, which I also wanted to highlight, is we are seeing the whole analytics play getting a shape of gamification for energy conservation drives. So we have also seen that using these tools, you're able to invite your neighbors in that locality and have a gamification in terms of how much energy am I saving.
Yeah.
And these are some of the things which are becoming extremely important when we are looking at it from a customer perspective, are analytics. Lastly, and I'll pause there, I just want to bring a perspective of where the industry is moving today. I was having a discussion with Ministry of Road Transport the other day, and the impetus on electric vehicles is possibly need to be, we need to really assess that demand, right? Which is a mandatory thing going to happen in possibly 2 years from now.
Right.
Mr. Gadkari said that, very confidently that 40%, 50% of population will be on electric vehicles. Now you have a charging station, as a consumer, what options do I have in a state which are charging stations? Can I go charge there and pay? Some of these things from a distribution perspective, as a utility perspective, is an aspect which we have seen in Europe, and we've done some great work in this area, and analytics on app consumer engagement like this can change the way you serve consumers.
Right,
So
thanks, Rajiv. In fact, very good points. And at this point, I would like to take this point to Mr. Sinha, because like Vineet was also mentioning that Bihar has done some good work in the technology area. So, Mr. Sinha, if you could tell us, some of the things that Rajiv was saying was very interesting, and we were having a chat the other day where also you were telling us about some of the technology work that's going on there. You can tell us a little bit about how technology is helping your company, in the building area in acquiring new consumers, and especially if it has made things a little easier during the COVID time. And how are you looking to leverage technology for your business and for your customers?
In fact, before coming to that point, I will take 2 minutes. What Rajiv has told, in fact, I am 100% in agreement with him. We should just compare our sector for analysis sake only with telecom sector. Years back, in telecom business, all the mobile business was 100% in postpaid mode. The first we thought about making it prepaid also. When we thought about making it prepaid, we were only having the perspective of a telecom operator rather than consumer. Means how it will help us in collecting the amount timely. But during the years, it has just turned up into a consumer service. Right now, mobile sector is having so many services in prepaid mode that it's an accepted fact for the consumer that it has to be prepaid only. Even if today that sector provides facility for postpaid option, but rarely people go for that. So that level this sector has to achieve. And that can be achieved only with the consumer-centric approach, consumer services, consumer facilities. Considering this, during this COVID period and prior to that also, we have planned in Bihar a common platform for so many services. That common platform we have named as a Suvidha. Suvidha is a platform that is with mobile app. It's Android based app available on Play Store. Anyone can download it. And the basic services like applying for new connection, discontinuing the service, enhancing the load, any correction in the minor correction in the address. If the consumer wants to update his mobile number or email detail, if consumer has any grievance, he can put online grievance on this platform also.
Okay.
Like additional one, we have also added, like if somebody has on their own installed the solar aspects at their rooftop solar plants, they can get it net metering facility from us, applying on this platform only. Likewise, we have some environmental initiative, like if the people want that they want only digital bill, no paper bill is required. If they are concerned about environmental and all this tree cutting they are concerned about, so they can opt for only digital bill. We will not serve them any paper bill. So all these facilities we have bundled on a single platform, and it has been rolled out from 1st of January 2020, and this has resulted into basically a business process re-engineering, because from 1st January onward, all our counters are not accepting any manual application for new connection. All has to go through this platform mandatorily. So anybody sitting at home or going to any cyber cafe or visiting his friend or having a tech savvy person can apply. No documentary submission in paper form is required now. Ultimately, this will result into 100% digitized record keeping by DISCOM with respect to consumer record. Later on, any services related to consumer authenticity, if he applies for load enhancement, his authenticity is to be checked. If he applies for any transfer closure, his authenticity is to be checked. All these facilities will be paperless now onwards for these consumers. So these we have planned here, and we are hopeful during course of time, all our consumer record after certain cutoff date will be 100% digitized. And all our staffs, the field offices, they are also welcoming it. They think that they are just finding it easy to handle those big almirahs and all the physical records. So I think they are also happy. They will be welcoming it. And for consumers' perspective, it's just a touch screen activity for them.
Right. So yes, this is your business process has been eased, and it is also making the entire company more consumer centric. Dr. Garg, you're also the chairman of TPCODL. Now, in this process of a tie-up with a private partner, which is Tata Power, do you see any difference in their adoption of technology, which perhaps Orissa, the government is looking at adopting?
I think the issues or the subjects which Sanjeevan mentioned about the app and having the consumer interact with the distribution company only through a means of a portal or an app. I think that's the way that we have started in Orissa. Might be we just started over just a couple of months back from 1st of June onwards. So we are still in the phase of consolidating that process. But so that's more on the technology aspect. But you're talking about the experience with the privatization. I think one out of the 4 DISCOMs right now has been privatized. In fact, Tata Power took it over from 1st of June during the COVID period. They were earlier we hoped it from 1st of April, but it took. And I think they have brought in a lot of value in the partnership because number one, there are limitations, if I can put it that way, of functioning within a government setup. I think the flexibility that they have brought in, the technology that they have brought in, and the work, the pace of work that they are bringing in. I think it will show up. It's only a couple of months since they have taken over, so it might be too early to really comment on the outcomes. But I think the processes they are following, the systems they are bringing in, the kind of monitoring mechanisms that they have, I think these will show up in better consumer focus. And they have definitely a much greater focus on technology and ensuring that in the present age, even a remote substation, you can get the latest position of the power supply from that substation, sitting in any control room, and you can monitor. I think those investments are being brought in. In fact, you might be aware the other 3 DISCOMs are also in the process of being the State Electricity Regulatory Commission. They are the ones who are running the process for that. So let's see how that goes.
So is it difficult to keep, sorry, I'll take another question. Is it difficult for a company, a DISCOM, a state-run DISCOM, to keep pace with a much younger private company which is entered into distribution, say, just 20 years back? Is it difficult?
I didn't understand your question. Are you saying that whether these same employees are able to function?
Keep pace with the ethos of a private company which comes into the sector, a much younger private company?
I think, see, this is the second phase of privatization we are having in Odisha. We had privatized our DISCOMs back in 2005, 2099, in fact, when the first privatization took place, and then the second round. Our experience has been that it's not that there's a wholesale change in the employees who are working on there. There might be a certain amount of, what should I say, flexibility in being able to weed out certain areas, etc. But there is no wholesale change in employees. I think it's hopefully as it will pan out, I suppose. What we are expecting is a slightly more focused consumer-centric approach, which will come in to the operations moving ahead.
Okay, in fact, Dr. Garg and Mr. Sinha, the one question that I wanted to also understand, we were talking about smart metering at some point, and there is a plan to roll out smart metering by the central government also. And do you see any challenges in the implementation, or do you think we are now mature enough in our technology adoption to be able to roll that out comfortably?
In fact, smart metering is not new for this sector. It has already been 1 and 2 years stabilized also, especially in Uttar Pradesh also. But smart metering with prepaid facility, that's new for us. And we in Bihar decided to go for a smart metering only with prepaid facility. Because a smart metering means the same metering pattern is there with some more data access, and remotely all data is received. That is smart metering conceptually. But this, not necessarily this will serve the basic problem of collection, the timely collection and the liquidity issue of the DISCOM. So we decided, why not we infuse that facility of prepaid billing, like in mobile sector. So first you pay, then you use. So this facility in the smart meters, this was basically with software intervention. Earlier in prepaid metering, it was not a smart prepaid, it was isolated meters having some algorithm in the meter inbuilt and some credit given to the consumer having certain code. So that was not a smart, that was prepaid. Prepaid is also old for us in this sector, but this hybrid part of a smart function and the prepaid function is the smart prepaid meter, which we started. In our journey till now, we have already installed more than 60,000 meters in 2 DISCOMs of Bihar. This covers the business, means our non-domestic consumers, domestic consumers, agriculture consumers, and some community level consumers like Har Ghar Nal Yojana of Government of Bihar, where the community pays for electricity of the water supply system. So this has a varied intervention, means consumers are of various background, which are being covered by 60,000 odd numbers. But the real challenge is the quality of software which we want to have. All the consumer interfaces required, which will serve the consumer as a service rather than a billing system only. I strongly believe that any system of a smart prepaid meter cannot succeed if we make only as a billing collection system, it has to be a consumer friendly service rather than a billing system. So here comes the role of, as Rajiv has told, we have to think about more analytics, more consumer friendly facilities, services, which will facilitate and engage the consumers. So this smart prepaid meter gives us that opportunity. Liquidity and collection efficiency for the DISCOM, at the same point of time, consumer services for the consumer. So this aspect, we are still in the stabilization process. One common inference we can make is the system integration is a specific work here, a specialized work here. Right now, some software like SAP developers and some other developers are there, but I think this area more investment is required, more players are required who can independently come with us that this is the system integration solution they have taken. Right now, the sector is in mostly in subscription model, I will call. Subscription model, I will just explain. If certain meter manufacturer is there, like Janus or any other meter manufacturer is there, they come with solution of system integration also. L&T, Janus, or this type of manufacturers. If a DISCOM opt for a manufacturer, it has to stick to that manufacturer. That inter-manufacturer portability is a challenge.
Right.
The same example, just to elucidate that aspect, in the education sector, we will find that coaching industry is there. If a student is enrolled in FITGI, even if he knows certain chapters or certain part is better in Akash, he cannot shift in Akash. He has to be in FITGI. So this type of scenario we are finding here also. So my submission is that market should invest, the players should come more and more as a system integrator, irrespective of the meter manufacturer. So that we have found out during our experience. And the second part is that system integrator should be more convergent with consumer services, what consumer need. And prepaid metering should be a consumer service rather than a system. Means consumers should have choice either to go for prepaid or to remain with postpaid. So that is the ideal situation of this sector we should aspire for.
Right. In fact, Dr. Garg, your view on this before I come to Vineet and to Rajiv, because there's quite a bit of technology being discussed here.
Yeah, I would say two issues that we need to keep in view. I think while the transition, which will affect the transition or the pace of transition, let me put it that way. One is obviously the high cost of the smart meters, which is the initial cost. Obviously, if you look at the long-term payback, etc., but there is a high initial cost. And the second is the frequent technological upgradations that seem to be required and will be required, whether it might be software changes, it might be other kinds. And the third, which is associated, which was alluded to earlier, was the fact the lock-in. I suppose taking further the telecom analogy, the interoperability or the ability to switch consumers when you change circles or whatever. So in the smart meters, we would have to think of, we should not get locked into a particular vendor, and long term that might lead to a lot of issues. And especially when the volumes that we are talking about here are in crores. It's not lakhs of meters that we are talking about, but it's maybe a crore, for example, for Orissa and many of the other states. So whenever even the per meter, the cost might be very low, but when you multiply it, so we just have to look at those issues going forward. And I think that is where there might be some resistance, or the pace of change might be slower
Thank
than
you.
expected.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. I'll take this a question to Vineet. We're talking about technology, and as Dr. Garg mentioned, that it has financial impact as well. What could be the other challenges for pan-India rollout of smart and prepaid meters from the perspective of the company as well as from a consumer's point of view?
Yeah. So I think Mr. Garg and Sanjeevan sir has done the very valid point. So first is higher cost. So to make it more easier to state discoms, now we are coming various different models, business models. So like Bihar is on ESL model, which is on monthly rental kind of model, which typically we say TOTEX cost model rather than CapEx. It is TOTEX or OPEX cost model itself. And OPEX cost model give you the freedom in terms of that. Typically what was happening earlier that in system integration project, system integrator customized the product and moved out from the system, and state discom need to run that system, while in TOTEX model system integrator needs to run the show for 8 to 10 years, whatever the duration of smart metering solution itself. So they have their skin in the game, number one. Number two, system integrator needs to ensure all SLAs for 8 to 10 year duration. So that's again, it doesn't mean that they can do any kind of work outside their SLAs being prescribed. Number three, 8 to 10 years period is a very significant period where capacity building or change management kind of activities can be happened in DISCOM itself. So transition may be a challenge for 6, 7 months or a year or two, but 8 to 10 years is a period where DISCOM would be self-sufficient in terms of technology adoption, that they can take it forward. Number one. Number two, very important point which Sanjeevan sir conveyed, interoperability. So interoperability is a major issue wherein if you see the slide, if you recall the slide which I talked about, that there are three different dimensions are coming in the picture right now in smart metering market. One is ESL platform is being created, where already Bihar is almost 23 lakhs smart metering consumers. They want to come on that. UP 40 lakhs and Haryana 10 lakhs. But ministry is also coming up with a concept that they want to create a common backend infrastructure. So if common backend infrastructure is being commissioned, then it would be a plug and play kind of a solution.
Right.
So if we are defining one common layer, this is our common layer for pan India level, and whosoever wants to provide the data at this level, they must be ready to integrate their system with this common layer. So that would, I think, will minimize this this vendor lock-in issue. So that is pretty much. And third is state discoms, like we are pretty much in touch with BESCOM and other states which are taking forward their agenda of almost 12 million smart meter rollout. Because state want to have the control in their hand itself, because it's a technology issue and they want that whosoever the system integrator should work under their guidance. So that is again a very right phenomena which state discoms are considering. So with this three-dimensional kind of approach, market is very fluid at this point of time. So again, I would request Sanjeevan sir and Saurabh ji that if they can put their views, which is the right approach, whether they want to take forward that journey by themselves, or they want that they will continue on ESL platform, or they will rely upon ministry common backend infrastructure. Sir.
Okay, so that is their choice. I would like to come at this point. Mr. Sinha, you have something to say before I go to Rajiv?
In fact, we should just put this aspect side, that who is the player. We should emphasize on what should be played upon. What is the rule of the game we are aspiring for. In fact, there is no substitute of efficiency. The efficiency may come from double ESL, may come from Genus, may come from L&T. What I am concerned about is we should target the certain level of efficiency in the services being provided by system integrator. In my opinion, right now, EDF is working that in that role through on behalf of ESL in Bihar. But I can safely conclude that that level is not achieved by EDF. Since this is the first project of a kind, So we can give certainly concession to them. But my concern to highlight the issue is that this is the area as a industry, IT developers, or all of persons who have a stakeholding in the power sector should think about that this efficiency this sector has to achieve. Only then we can aspire for the pan-India smart prepaid metering. Otherwise, due to this drawback or the that since we are not reaching that efficiency level, we may in the midway be compelled to just stop this process. So this is my concern. Being associated with this project for more than 1 year, 1.5 years. So in a way, I am passionate and highlighting again and again this issue. But this is the concern really I feel.
Right.
Regarding that business model, that's another aspect is the business model. As Vineet has already explained, in Bihar it is OPEX model. And ultimately we have analyzed, even if it is costing us with GST around 100 per consumer per month, but even that is better in economic terms for us if we consider those hassles of meter reading being collected by a meter reader, their own motivational plus minus operational issues. So we are of the opinion that even it is better to make expenditure of 100 rupees per month per consumer than to think about the old model of meter recording by an individual. And this OPEX model is not burdening us at a given point of time. It is staggered during whole project period. So that is the operational model we are comfortable with.
Right. Thank you. In fact, Rajiv, SAP is a major partner to Discom in India, and so there is a lot of work that SAP is doing with the Discom. So in also South Bihar, like Mr. Sinha was saying, has done a lot of work in the technology front. Certain things that they are pioneering, in fact, in the country. So you could tell us a little bit more about, what more can Discoms do on this front and the other issues that Mr. Sinha and Vineet they were highlighting. Tell us what's happening on the technology front, because obviously power distribution in the future is going to harness a lot of technology for not just billing and prepaid meters, but the entire customer experience ecosystem.
Yeah, so you can hear me right, Alokesh?
Yeah, we
I
can
had
hear
some
you.
I had some power disruption.
Okay.
So I'm shifted.
We were wondering where you are going.
So I shifted from my laptop to my phone. Now I'm on phone, but
So just before you answer, it's interesting, we have a very rapt audience of more than 330, 350 people who have been listening in to us patiently. And we've got more than almost 100 questions from them in at this point.
Yes.
So after Rajiv speaks, maybe we can just pick up on some of those.
Yeah, sure. So Alokesh, just picking up from where Sinha sir just talked about, I think he brings an important point of system integrator, right? So fortunately, we were part of that whole consortium from our analytics and even the e-meter, Siemens e-meter as a product partnership we had with Siemens. So I'm aware of what Sinha sir is talking about in terms of system integrators, scalability, skill, EDF being a French organization trying to get into a space. So I understand all of that. I think from a technology or a part of the fraternity in IT, I just wanted to answer it in one way, sir. Typically, some of these very complex projects, the best way to handle when there are just too many moving parts. One is system integrators' capability to project manage. Second is the selection of platform and technology where skill is abundantly available in the market is very, very critical. So whenever we are talking about, so if the platform has been chosen that if EDF has or any SI has an issue, they have abundant skill available in the market, so they can just pick up in case of any eventuality. We believe that approach at times has really served well. Second, if something which doesn't need to be reinvented, and if it's existing somewhere, needs to be utilized because the because the whole management or the project management would be known, that what are the known challenges that you get, what are the known issues, what is the project management pattern that you do. Whereas when you try to invent during such a complexity, which is a geography complexity, volume complexity, area complexity, first time we're doing in India, and then on top of it, inventing the technologies from bottoms up at that time, just too massive for largest of organizations to handle. So if you start solving layer by layer, one scale, then platform, etc., I think we can achieve better. And as you said, we have to give benefit of doubt, first of its kind in that segment.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but broadly, again, reiterating the skill, the platform that we choose, so that is very important in terms of abundant. Coming to Alokesh, your point, our experience, I think distribution business in our opinion, and we are very, very passionate about it since 2000, I think 2, 3, 4, we've been there since the APDRP days. And I think it's at crossroad, needless to say, for a very long time. And it is expected that, the series of transformational waves and the along with digital disruption will have huge effect on this industry. Of course, funding is required for this transformation. We all know that, of various initiatives launched by government, and funding agencies are trying, very eager to enter into this space, whether it's World Bank, ADBs of the world. Now, it is imperative that in near future the industry shifts completely from, as sir said, from a manual to completely process driven. Smart meter is just a way to start. Some of the critical considerations for DISCOMs, what we are seeing globally and in India, are on 3 fronts. One is on consumer front, second is on asset front, which sir talked about. Asset, now smart meters will become part of one asset, and then the distribution lines and the whole asset that you have. And third is the core enterprise, their own enterprise, their own employees, their own suppliers, their own vendors, how running the organization, or how the financial or the whole bookkeeping, how robust is it becoming. So these 3 areas we believe, and I'll just very quickly touch on, like on consumer front, we think utilities will be expected to provide omni-channel experience. As sir said, they're already doing it and a lot of people are doing it, but the whole future will be about, and I'll use 2 jargons called prosumers, which are providers and consumers, like solar energy net metering, and second is flexumers, and that's something very interesting Somnath has given me from my team, called flexible consumers. You give flexible pricing, hourly pricing going future, what we are seeing, right? So based on the demand pattern, if somebody is not using electricity during daytime, it becomes cheaper, and in the night it becomes more costlier because everybody is using AC at home. And that's the business model which will evolve on
like
consumer
airline
side.
ticket pricing, dynamic
Yeah,
pricing
or
model.
dynamic pricing. The telecom has come down to per call per second billing, right? And peak load, etc. You remember they started saying that in the nights you'll have 1 paisa calling, during the day they'll have 10 paisa calling. And every young boy started calling in the night. So and those were the times, and
we all remember doing that. Waiting for the night time to come when the rates are going to be low.
Exactly. And this is where we think the consumerization of the whole utility is unstoppable, right? Second, I think very boring topic, but very important topic is asset, right? I mean, we've been harping upon asset, but everybody just keeps it under the wrapper, saying that yeah, asset fir se asset chalu ho gaya, but once the outage happens, once your assets age, you start realizing the pain of it, and now the time has come for distribution also to have second thought in terms of whether it can be an IT OT enabled maintenance. Can I predict that this line is going to fail now? Because based on historical data, this is the pattern on which last 2 years back it failed. And this is something which is possible today.
Such tools are available, the predictive maintenance tools.
Yeah, the predictive maintenance based on historical analysis.
Absolutely.
So that's something going to be very, very essential. And third, I wanted to highlight, very, again, ignored, but since the impetus came from central government, so people are talking about enterprise thing, but it's very important when we're looking at transformation to focus on your employees and employees engagement and safety. is extremely important. And there are tools today where you can engage employees, tell them why you're transforming, whether it's privatization drive, etc. Secondly, you are collaborating with your vendors. You have long-term contracts with vendors like smart meters now, maybe a 10-year contract with EDF, 8 years contract. They're long-term contracts. You know, how are you managing their performance year on year? What is your risk profiling of those suppliers? How are you managing that will be very important. And third is the financial excellence. And fourth is the governance, risk and compliance across. We have recently heard that some of the billing misuse, you know, in some industrial segments because of certain billing software was tampered with, and the bills for certain industrial consumers were, you know, jacked down, jacked up. You know, important to have, you know, your governance and risk process that some of these things can be avoided. So I think some of these things that we are seeing in technology and distribution companies, Alokesh, I just wanted to highlight.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
As Alokesh mentioned, we have over 350 participants and now 100 questions. I'll go to a few questions here. My question is to Mr. Sinha. When you talk about prepaid smart meters, the question is, have you sensed any sort of consumer reluctance when you were rolling it out?
In fact, the only question consumer asks, why me first? No other problem.
Okay.
The only problem is why me first.
Right.
But we want to
Is there a suspicion that because of this meter, their bills will go up, it will balloon?
In fact, what we desire that we wish that they question us why I am not first.
Okay.
Means if we are providing that much consumer friendly services through this prepaid app or prepaid functionality, like for example, if a person is residing in Delhi and his parents are in Patna in Bihar, he may see that if his servants are properly serving to their parents or not, how they are using electricity, at what point in time, what they are doing. Through these mobile apps related to prepaid functionality can serve a lot to these type of consumers. They can manage their use pattern, which are the apparatus or the items of electricity consumption which are consuming more electricity. They can have the analysis of that also, to that extent also. So these type, if we reach to this type of consumer services through this prepaid functionality, then our desire that they ask why me not first, that should be the question. So we are aspiring for that, and all the prospect is lying there. How far we are able to build that the consumer friendly apps, the services associated with prepaid smart metering.
Right. I'll take another audience question. This is for Dr. Garg. The question is that what is the impact of open access on DISCOMs, especially given renewable power and its unpredictability? I think by unpredictability, he means the base load.
I suppose the renewable energy unpredictability is the issue of variation across the day. For example, solar is only available during the day, it's not available in the night. And there is storage costs associated with it. So I think these are issues which are going to pan out as we move ahead, because open access has two sides to it. I mean, it has to be on both sides, open access and the ability to get power, whether for the DISCOM or for the or on the or get it from other places. So I won't really, but on the renewable energy, I would like to mention that because that's an area that maybe we just take a minute on that. Because one is on the off-grid, the prosumer part of what Rajiv Singh was mentioning, that the ultimate consumer can also be a renewable energy grid power provider. And I think that's an area that we have perhaps going forward, we'll need to take a lot more focus on, because it can also be a very important income generator for a small consumer or a marginal consumer living in the rural areas, and an important income poverty alleviation measure, if I can put it in a very, very stark manner, because that's a source that's available to every citizen. And if there is an ability for that citizen to connect the production into the grid, it might help increase the amount of income available, but it will have impact on, in the current power surplus situation that we are, on the availability of power. But in any case, this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen across a period of time. But I think that's the area that we would need to move ahead to these decentralized power generations at the individual level. Obviously, energy storage issues would come in, but if we can connect it to the grid, I think it will have a sea change in terms of what availability of power would be at in the rural areas.
Absolutely. In fact, that would quite be. There is a couple of questions that I will also now take from the audience. One of which is a typical consumer question, and it's I wonder what the answer is. So this is from Praveen Pawar, and he says that in Maharashtra we have variable rates per unit. I think in most places it is variable rates per unit, right? So for the first 100 units, rate is X, and then 100 to 300, the rate is Y. So how will that work in a prepaid system? And the prepaid system means that you don't know how much you're consuming, right?
May I answer?
Of course.
Yeah. In fact, this prepaid is different from the, again, I will compare with mobile. You see, in the earlier regime of telecom, there were the time slot. Even time slot is a better arrangement. You synchronize your watch with the slot and the pricing is accordingly adjusted. But in electricity sector, it's a consumption-based tariff. Means if you consume this much of electricity, this tariff will be applicable.
Yeah.
Above and over that, the different will be rate will be applicable. So what we do in this smart prepaid metering, we can charge their consumption based on earlier month's consumption pattern. That data is available, and during end of the month, on the last day of the month, we just run our program to see how much they have consumed in 30 days. And as per consumption pattern, the whole charged deducted amount is again billed and charged in proper manner. So there is a adjustment sort of thing on the last day of the month. So whole of the month they are flatly charged, and the tariff adjustment is done only at the end of the month.
Okay.
There's another interesting question, that is direct benefit transfer, and can it help DISCOMs in improving revenue collection? It's a question from Rishu Garg.
In fact, should I answer that also?
Please go ahead. Then we'll go to Dr. Garg.
In fact, sorry, sir. Garg sir was to answer.
Yes, please.
No, please go ahead.
Sir, please, sir.
See, in Odisha, we don't have a cross-subsidize. I mean, this is normally talked of in the agriculture sector, because you have agriculture tariffs which are much lower than the other retail consumer tariff. In Odisha, number one, our agriculture consumption is much lower than most of these states. I'm sure Bihar would be much higher. It's less than 5% in Odisha. And secondly, the amount of cross-subsidization is much lower than many other states. So DBT is perhaps an option, but in Odisha is not such an important option, and that's why Sanjeevan might have a better. I don't know what's the agricultural subsidies that are given on the power side. He might be able to answer that better.
Mr. Sinha?
In fact, I will just add another dimension of this. DBT is the direct benefit transfer. We should not assume that this benefit should be certainly in form of cash. Benefit is of cash, but it may be of accounting benefit also. Likewise, just I will give example. If I am charged 5 rupees per unit in my bill, and if the bill is showing that charge is 5 rupees, but you have to pay 3 rupees only because 2 rupees you have received as a direct benefit transfer of subsidy. This is also a direct benefit transfer, but practically cash doesn't transact in this case. Only accounting transacts. So in Bihar, we have already for the last 4-5 years, we approve our tariff with whole of the amount which is calculated as a cost to us. It means our tariff is approved by our regulator, for example, 5 rupees per unit. Afterward, the government of Bihar declares subsidy category wise. If in a certain category, government declares 2 rupees per unit is the subsidy, the DISCOMs bill the consumer, total billable amount is 5 rupees, 2 rupees subsidy received from government of Bihar, and the net payable amount is 3 rupees. This model of direct subsidy scheme we are already successfully implementing here. So we feel there is no need to transfer cash to the consumer account and then get back the amount, or either first they pay and then get the returned amount, as in the case of LPG. So that is not necessary as we feel it.
Right, and in fact,
Okay,
you know,
can
the
I
question
comment on
first.
this point?
Yes, please go.
Yeah. So, as sir rightly said that it may
Please, how
not
come
be,
we can't see you here?
just a second.
For a minute, I thought there was somebody else who had
Yeah, I
his
thought-
gate crashed.
Sorry. So,
Yes.
as sir rightly said, it may not be in terms of directly cash transaction for DBT, but the major challenge, sir, which I am still facing, that because we are in process to lay down certain business processes for this DBT transfer. The most beneficial category for this would be agriculture, where metering is a big challenge. Since metering is not there, so it would be a bit difficult to the state DISCOMs to identify how much benefit needs to be transferred to particular agriculture customer. So that may be a big bottleneck. So we are still trying to find out. Yes, sir. So, sure.
In fact, when we talk about agriculture sector, Government of India and different states government also have already under DDUGY and other plans, they have the concept of dedicated feeders for agriculture. What does dedicated feeder mean? The dedicated feeder means from the power substation, 11 kV line is started and it is going to the agriculture fields. On that line, different transformers are installed and the consumers are getting connection. It means that dedicated feeder is only for the purpose of agriculture. But practically, how to implement only for the purpose of agriculture? The way out is you regulate the number of hours of supply in that feeder. If we regulate 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours only availability of power, especially during daytime or whatever time suits to you, this will become effectively a dedicated feeder for agriculture. If it becomes dedicated feeder for agriculture, nobody from domestic user will like to be attached to this feeder because they will not be getting 24-hour power. And every sector, every power substation is having feeder meters. So we can have feeder meters. The feeder meter 100% metering is possible even if with the remote access.
Yeah.
If we transfer this concept of individual DBT to group of agriculturist DBT, this is quite easy to implement and feasible and even beneficial and easy to handle for DISCOMs also. But right now, we are simply extending the concept of DBT from domestic consumer in the same manner to the agriculture consumers. So this is the problem, I feel.
Yeah,
Right.
rightly.
In fact, there is a question for Rajiv, and you mentioned about the flexi-zumer, the flexi-zumer. What do you call it?
Yeah, flexumers.
Flexi-zumer,
So
right. So Ashutosh Kumar wants to know,
Where it
has
has
this
been
idea,
implemented.
yeah, has it been implemented anywhere, even on an experimental basis? And if
yeah, I
yes, if you
think
could share.
yeah, we are this is a concept, right? So which is nothing but we're calling it as flexumers, but it is nothing but dynamic pricing, day wise and hour by wise. It is in Europe fairly extensively used, and we have implemented based on our solution as well. The pricing from a central location is decided and published for either it can be daily dynamic price that can be published hourly rates or on a monthly basis. And people can just actually, what we have seen in some of these Western countries is that they have this common area automated machines which they put on that, washing machines, etc., are used during the daytime. Feeders are used during daytime, and when they come back, they're using mainly the home appliances then. So it is they're able to regulate the demand, the peak load, and distribute it over a period of time through this deregulation of pricing. So that's some distance away, but yeah, as a concept, working concept is it exists, and be happy to share more details in which country, what utilities to you,
Yes.
Sure.
Alokesh.
Great.
Rajiv, as you're speaking, Balu Ramaswamy has already given us the equation how the demand supply management can be done better. There are a few questions that I'll take. The questions are largely on proposals and amendments to government policies. The first one is from Vikas Apte. He's asking about the draft electricity rights of consumer rules, which have been circulated for stakeholder feedback. He thinks it's a game changer, and he's specifically asking you about the restriction that has been put on solar PV rooftop. The restriction is on 5 kilowatt. So his question is that, is this now taking us towards a consensus between discoms and consumers? Is that the new understanding? Who wants to take?
So can I? So
Please.
it's a draft bill. So between based on discussion with various stakeholders being put there itself. So it is still open. The window is still open to submit their views if anyone is considering that 5 kilowatt is a very higher limit. So they want to take care of a kilowatt or 2 kilowatt itself, but it could be very clustered and very scattered. So that's why 5 kilowatt limits is being kept there itself. But window is still open. One can suggest the pros and
Exactly.
cons of why it should be not 1 to 2 kilowatt customers.
Right.
Right.
Well, there's a question for Dr. Garg. I'll actually take it to both Mr. Sinha and Dr. Garg. This is about, the question is about the various reforms that we've seen for distribution companies. Now, the question is that even with Aditya, we see that the cost of Aditya is going to be borne at a 60-40 ratio between the center and the state. Do you think the states have the wherewithal to bear that cost? Dr. Garg?
Audience can ask anything,
So that's why I initially said that on Aditya, I said I'm not going to, because I think these are issues which I'm not too sure whether we are at that stage, whether a scheme is still to be rolled out. The financial implications are yet to be worked out, and what will be the benefits, etc. So it would be improper on my part to talk about specific issues on, especially when I'm sitting here in my official capacity.
Yes, of course, we understand that. There is another question that has come that I'd just like to quickly take from Pranav Kumar Gupta. And I don't know if you are going to be able to answer this, but he says that while we are speaking on modernization of metering to that extent, how far is it correct to charge at a higher rate for bulk consumers in comparison to nominal consuming people, where the supply to the nominal is actually costing you higher.
Mr. Sinha?
Yeah.
Please.
In fact, if we just assess the journey from last 3 to 4 years across all DISCOM, you will find that we are minimizing the slabs. Earlier, for example, in Bihar, it was more than 100 slabs of charging. Now we have reduced it is less than 40 or around 40. So any sector grows like that. It starts with the cross subsidization from one segment to another segment. If the sector grows up, stabilizes, it has to reduce. But power sector, I think it will take certain time. Still, it is not, we have not reached that level that one flat rate is feasible for the liquidity aspect and consumer responsibility, to especially towards the lower paying consumers are also available there. And electricity right now has become as an essential service even for all segments of the persons. So we have also Kutur Jyoti scheme where the very low paid, low income group is also provided the electricity. So it will, personally, I feel it will remain for some time. Still, it is not that time where flat is affordable for all of them.
Right. It's just the last. Yeah, please go ahead.
So on top of that, sir, our national tariff policy itself suggests that it should be a cost of supply basis. So irrespective DISCOM or any agency is willing to do so, apart from this cross subsidized charge being removed, but it will be on cost of supply basis. Whatever the cost of supply of particular segment would be, accordingly tariff would be decided. If we remove the cross subsidy part aside, I think pragmatically it would be very difficult to implement it, because regulator will come later on and suggest that it should be on cost of supply basis.
Yeah, certainly I agree. In fact, it is quite easy to make tariff cost based, and we are near about that also. But what the question was from a consumer perspective, consumer's perspective, the role of subsidy is there. We are getting less subsidy with respect to industrial consumers as compared to small consumers of domestic use. So that will remain there. I wanted to say that only.
Yes.
Of course. Just the last question, there was some question that came to us on the email as well. So I'll take that question. That's the last question I'll take. Could anyone have an estimate of the cost impact and its viability of mass rollout of smart prepayment meters across the country, which will replace all existing electronic meters?
Vineet?
Yeah. So not pan-India level.
It's a consultant question.
But yes, we have done a complete due diligence, and we came up with the complete ROI of mass rollout program. So be it in case of UP and Haryana, we have 5 million smart meter rolled out, and parallelly we are doing for Karnataka state as well, where 12 million smart meter needs to be rolled out. So 12 million and 5 million is a significant scale where we have done this analysis, and we have done for Nepal, country like Nepal as well, where 3 million smart meter rollout, and Saudi where 9 million smart meter rollout. ROI we have developed. So typically it varies in which country you are doing, in which terrain you are doing, but in India it is around the payback period for smart metering is coming almost around 5.6 to 6 years itself, and it varies subject to the scale of opportunity which is being published by state DISCOM itself, but payback period is around 5.5 to 6 years. And believe me, one thing which I would like to communicate: smart metering is a capex intensive program, but it really pays it returns, as Sir Sanjeevan sir clearly told that metering, billing, collection, all charges been removed now. Customer satisfaction come in the role, and moreover, which we are missing the part of business opportunity cost. So typically, if our customer supply is not restored or disconnection happened because of a local disconnection per se, now we are doing remote disconnection. So we are losing our revenue if customer is not being connected for 3 days, 4 days. So business opportunity cost and system planning cost. So all these are the derivative of smart metering. So with this, I would say yes, but pan-India number I am not having, because it needs to be done in state by itself, because pan India, one agency is not driving this.
There's one more, there are actually not one more, but 135 more questions, but obviously we cannot take them all. We'll be sitting here till morning. But a very strategic question, which I would like to take to Dr. Garg, because of the exposure and experience that you have. And Mr. Sinha, after that, you want to take this question on also, you're welcome to do that. Ritesh Srivastava is asking, what do you think of the one nation, one grid concept? Do you believe that it will lead to better efficiencies?
Definitely in terms of having the ability to transmit power across the country is something which is very appealing. The only things we have to be careful of, number one, is when in terms of breakdowns, that there should not be a domino effect across. If it's a one nation, one grid, we would need to have circuit breakers, which I'm sure would be there, so that there's no domino effect across the grids. That's one on the negative side, so to say. But conceptually, we should have the ability that irrespective of where power is produced, we can reach it to a consumer across the country. I think conceptually, I don't have an issue. But in terms of implementation, we'll have to, as I just gave one example, but there would be a lot of other issues in terms of costs of transmission and the pricing across different transmission networks, etc. But those are matters of detail.
Mr. Sinha?
In fact, sir has already explained that one nation, one grid is feasible and it is already there. In fact, all our 4 segments of transmission grids are interrelated. So right now we can tell that one nation, one grid we have achieved. Grid in the sense of transmission line. And in near future, I think we are also targeting for one nation, one grid and one tariff of transmission also. So in near future, probably we may also achieve that.
Right. In fact, Suchetna?
Yes, I was just going to say that it has been an absolutely enriching discussion that we had. And it's evident clearly from the fact that we had about 380 participants and we got now 142 questions, where most of the people asking questions also, they want to now interact with you personally because there are more questions to ask. So
and
that
very strong questions, Suchetna. It's quite obvious that these are very senior people from the industry who are listening in.
Especially Rajiv, your comments about flexumers has struck a chord, it seems. There are 2
I
more
saw
questions.
some prosumers also there.
Yes, and they want now your email ID to discuss this with you. So the fact that you are, this entire conversation has raised questions in the minds of so many who want to interact with you, who want to engage on the power sector is a very positive thing. It means clearly that transformational waves are taking place in this sector. There is deep digital adoption at the core of it, and perhaps since the 1980s, you've seen a movement towards it, but this is the peak when it comes to the consumer focus that distribution companies now have. So all of this hopefully would lead to more efficiency, both operational and financial, for the distribution companies. Yes, in a country like India, where power for all comes with the rider that there will be cross-subsidization of power. So funding perhaps will remain an issue, a challenge. But the power sector is not really new to challenges, especially the DISCOMs. With that, I'd hand over to Rajiv for a vote of thanks. And from Economic Times, thank you to SAP for allowing this discussion to happen. And thank you, Mr. Sinha, Dr. Garg, Vineet, Rajiv, thank you very much. Thank you to my co-moderator, Alokesh also. Thank you very much.
And Rajiv, while you're giving the vote of thanks, do mention 1 or 2 names of the countries where you have done the flexumor thing. I think
I'll give
read up on those case studies.
Sure. So thank you, Alokesh. I think it was absolutely enriching experience, and Dr. Garg and Sinha sir, I think we had tremendous learning. At least I learned a lot about some of the topics that we discussed here, especially on the DBT thing. I think that was very new for me. Frankly, personally, I thought DB2 only meant NREGA and some of those things, and the way it is being done in utilities in a very unique way was very, very interesting. So as SAP, I just wanted to tell you, sir, and everyone that, you know, this segment is very, very close to our heart, and we, as Lokesh mentioned, in Europe specifically, this whole dynamic pricing runs in Germany. Few more countries in West that we have worked on. I will share the details with people who would want to interact with me on that and some case studies. But we just wanted to tell you that this is very close to our heart as a segment, and we are completely committed to this segment and innovations which are happening, whether it's multiple assets that we talk about, whether it's meters or assets which are, as I heard sir saying, that there are assets you don't want to get tied to, and the whole innovation happening around interoperability is where SAP is also committed to, and the whole consumer experience, what we call as customer experience, is going to be a big focus for all of us. And just wanted to thank you for giving this platform. Vineet, it was great. Dr. Garg, great for, thank you for your observation. We are closely working in Orissa, and absolutely phenomenal the way Orissa has shaped up in this particular segment. And we aspire to work very closely with South Bihar also, sir. Sir. So,
Welcome.
and thank you so much to everyone. Thank you. Over to you, Lokesh.
Thank you, Rajiv. Now that we know it's Germany, I'm just going to go back and study up on it and see, what all is happening in Germany and what we are going to do here in India. Thank you, Dr. Garg, Mr. Sinha, our panelists. Thank you, Vineet, so much. Thank you, Suchetna, for such a great moderation. Thank you, everybody who joined. We still have almost 200 people who are waiting for us for the final goodbye, and which is really great because people have taken huge amount of interest in this discussion. And it was truly an enriching one from our perspective as well. Thank you all very, very much. We hope to remain connected with all.
Thanks to
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you.